Hi. So my name is Ryan Kim, and the game I chose is the Connect 4 game, and here's my game plan. The reason I chose this game is because the rules for this game is relatively simple. The basic rule is that two players take turns placing a token to this specific board, and while taking turns, when four in a row of the same color token is found, then the player with that color token wins. So here's my code. It starts with letting the player one pick a token between either X or O. Before that, the code sets Y as a token, which is a dummy token that can be replaced into X or O. I set the tokens as X or O because it's pretty difficult for me to actually implement colors into the code. So XOR X and O are the types of token I use for this code. Anyways, so the code starts with letting the player one pick a token, either X or O, and it's gonna loop and ask the player one to pick a token until player one actually enters a valid token. And I'm also gonna put a space right before and right after the token so that it looks good on when it's placed on the board of the code. So here added the winner's token into a file. So every time a player wins, then the code is gonna save and add it into a file named winscount.txt. So here I open that file, and it's gonna count how many times each player have won. So it's gonna count how many times player one won and how many times player two won, and it's gonna return the number of wins for both players. And if that file does not exist, it's just gonna ignore it. So here, the code checks all the winning conditions. So you win this game if you have a token with your color four in a row, right? So, and there are four possible cases. If your color token is four in a row horizontally, vertically, positive diagonally, or negative diagonally, and it's gonna return true if four in a row with these four possible winning cases are found. So here it checks if there are any empty cells. If this board is full without any empty cells and no wins are detected, that means it's a tie. Here I display the board. The codes starting with os.system, that's the line that clears the board before everything starts. And you add a space next to the cell so that it looks good on the board. Then you print a column number from 1 to 7 at the bottom of the columns. And I set some constants at the bottom of the code, row set at 6 and column set at 7 because this game operates in a board of a 6 times 7 size grid. So here's the game setup. Again, I clear the board before everything starts. It's gonna start with printing welcome. It's gonna print all the instructions, and it's gonna also indicate that if you enter during the game, it's gonna make you exit the game whenever you want. Under that, it says that if player one picks a token, then the player two's automatically gonna take the opposite token. Here, the first line of code sets and creates the initial board, and under that, uh, it says if the current token is the player one token, using the lambda function, it's going to return the player two token. If the current token is the player two token, it's going to return the player one token. So what this shows is that two players are going to switch turns right after one of those right after a player places their token. So here's the main game loop. Uh, it starts by asking the player where he or she's going to drop a token, and Oh, also, I put the code where if you type exit, then where if you type quit, then you're automatically gonna exit the game during the game. Anyways, uh, again, back to the topic. The main game loop asks the player where he or she's gonna drop the token. So the code first converts that input into an integer, and it should be an integer between 1 to 7 because there are 7 columns. So the last part of the code is going to check if that number is between 1 to 7. So here, okay, so the token is going to be placed between the column 1 to column 7, right? So if that column that the player types in, if that column is empty, or if there are any cells that are empty in that column, then you're just going to drop the token from the bottom, stacking up. And if not, if that column is full, if it doesn't have any empty cells, then it's going to make the player to retry and pick another column. Here, it checks if the player wins or if the player gets a tie. So if the player wins, like I said earlier, it's gonna save and add to the win counts, and it's gonna transfer into the file I made. And if it's a tie, it's just gonna print it's a tie, and every code is gonna end with printing things for playing. So before I get to the conclusion, I'm gonna share and show you how the code works. So like I said, it's gonna start with welcoming you and it's gonna explain all the instructions and also indicate that if you enter quit, you can exit the game at any time, like right, not at the start, but during the game, during when the two players are taking turns. So it's gonna ask the player one to pick a token. So I'll pick X. And it's not going to ask player 2 to pick a token because automatically player 2 is going to take the opposite token. So it's going to start with player one's turn. So player 1 is going to choose column 1 every time, and player 2 is going to choose column 2 every time so that I can just explain how the code works. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And if I type 1, it's going to congratulations. Uh, It says X has won 4 times and O has won 1 time. This is the proof that this code saves and adds up all the number of wins each player have made. It says X has won 4 times because before I recorded this video, I already uh, did this process a couple of times and it saved all the trials I did. And it's like I said, it's gonna end with saying thanks for playing. So back to the conclusion. So I think the Connect 4 game project went well. It was successfully designed because I was able to implement all the key functions of this game. So it's the gameplay between two players taking turns right after a player places a token, that went well. And the code was able to detect every possible win cases and even if it's a tie. And also, I think this is the most important part that is able to track the score. So even when you play multiple games with another player, you can compete multiple rounds, and that's gonna all be saved and added. So that's gonna make the game more fun. So I think the I think the game project went well, and thank you for listening.